Good to have you, Luke. It's
Thank you so
good.
much.
You've been going. I love that thing you guys have been doing. I think it was really good and everything. And we're going to show a couple of clips in that. I want to show that 9-minute one first. I guess, right? Yeah. Okay. Good enough. Well, welcome. It's so good to see y'all and everything like that. And welcome to MNN. And welcome to you and the audience to this program where we're very pleased to welcome to the program two guests. We got at the top Luke Rudkowski. And Luke is known to everybody around New York that's involved in the 9/11 Truth movement, as it were, simply as Luke. Everybody knows him as Luke.
Just
I
Luke,
didn't know
yeah.
his last name, but Luke, welcome very
Thank
much.
you.
And he's a 9/11 Truth activist, and he's also a filmmaker. He's got a film he's put together called Dedicated, and we're going to show some clips from that. And so, Luke, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Hope you guys,
Yeah, immediate left Tom Foti, an old friend of conversation, myself, and he'd done programs in the past. He's also an activist. He's also a singer and songwriter, and he's taken, we're going to be talking about a lot of events that are going on around 9/11 Truth and trying to get the word out about that. But he's also very interested in the financial arrangements which Planet Earth operates. He's done a lot of really interesting research, done programs with in the past. Tom, once again, really good to see you again.
Very good to be here again, Harold. Thank you.
Luke, maybe you could kick it off. You've got a film now, right? And you call it Dedicated. When did you put it together, and what was the purpose of putting the film together, and how, and maybe weaving it in a little bit with your own background, if you could, how you got involved in 9/11 Truth? And some of that. Introduce yourself a little bit to the audience, please.
I'm Luke from New York 9/11 Truth, and you can say I got involved into 9/11 and all these things from one negative incident that happened to me when I was a victim of police brutality. And it really took that incident to make me realize my surroundings and understand what's really going on. And of course, that led me to Alex Jones, and of course, he's the one who broke through 9/11. And then after that, you know, understanding what 9/11 really is, understanding 9/11 really made me want to do something and act.
Yeah.
And the film Dedicated, I decided to make it December. And this was just a film about me and Dan Wallace and about the New York 9/11 Truth organization, about what we have been going through with the police, harassing us with police infiltration, and about the hard work we've been doing just to expose what 9/11 really is.
Yeah.
And I've been working on the film, and it was just supposed to be about me and Dan Wallace.
Yeah.
And during the middle of the making of the film, we lost Dan Wallace.
Yeah, I know. I'm really sorry to hear
And, yeah,
that.
and in the middle of making of the film, I just changed the whole film, and the whole middle ending of the film is just about Dan Wallace and what we have been doing together as New York 9/11 Truth.
What was the police incident that got you radicalized, if you want to?
Well, the police incident happened on September 14th, 2004.
Oh, recently,
Recently, where I was a victim of police brutality. I was actually one who called the police. The police came, misunderstood the situation, kind of roughed me up, put their hands on me, physically abused me. And after that, you know, just going through the proceedings, trying to get justice for being beat up by the cops, going through the CCRB, being ignored.
Did you have to go through the system and everything?
I went through, no, I was never arrested. I did nothing illegal. I'm the one who called the cops in the first place.
Yeah.
So I did nothing illegal. They're the ones who harassed me. I tried to get justice. I tried to expose it for what it was. Went through the community review board, and I got no justice out of it. And that really made me realize, you know, how corrupt and how messed up things really are. And it woke me up to 9/11 and bigger things.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting. And it might be worth mentioning also, you're saying, you know, 9/11 Truth and everything. Maybe we could just talk a little bit about what that is, because there's probably people in the audience who don't know what you're talking about.
Well, our organization, New York 9/11 Truth, represents family members and rescue workers which are asking questions about 9/11 that were never answered by the 9/11 Commission report. Questions such as, did the government have foreknowledge before 9/11? Such as, why is the government profiting for it, and what happened in Building 7?
Did they have foreknowledge? They have a thing, if I'm not mistaken, IHOP and MyHop or something? They
There's
let it
different
happen?
theories, but let's not get into the theoretical things of
Okay.
it. Let's talk about the real hardcore science and facts behind it, such as how Willie Brown of San Francisco got foreknowledge telling him not to fly to New York City on September 11th. He had a flight from San Francisco to New York City on September 11th, and then he got a phone call, he said, from the White House telling him not to fly. And this is reported by the San Francisco Chronicles.
He was the mayor.
That was reported by the
San Francisco Chronicles. I have the article here with me.
The establishment press and everything like that.
Exactly.
And behind this, if I may, there's an assumption on the part of many people that there was an involvement on the part of the United States government and people within it in terms of what happened on 9/11 in New York City.
Exactly. There's a huge amount of collusion and
Now
involvement.
let's sit for a second on that. That's a huge assumption, right?
Well,
And there's a lot of people in straight society who have a very hard time even countenance the idea that might be the case.
I wouldn't even call it an assumption, because when you look at the evidence, when you look behind Building 7, when you look at the eyewitness testimony, you could see that 9/11 is not what the government is telling us.
Okay, right.
And Harold, if you put it up against the official story that the government says happened, any scrutiny at all will reveal that the government story is full of holes. I mean, first of all, Building 7, the building, for a lot of people don't even know. I mean, the
right. That's what I'm saying.
Down.
People don't know as much as
people don't even know. But in New York, they do. They're kind of savvy here. Half the people, according to a Zabi poll, I believe it was last year, half the people in New York City believe that the government either had foreknowledge or was actively involved.
That's an incredibly damning assumption.
Of course. Well, Time magazine.
People have a hard time grasping the possibility of that, although more and more people are, and a large number of people want to have a reopening of that Keene Commission or that Commission report, and that they think it didn't go into any of the things it was a whitewash.
Even Keene and Hamilton are saying it was a whitewash. Well, not verbatim, but they're saying they weren't allowed to ask the questions they wanted to ask. They're saying that the investigation was inadequate, and basically they were handcuffed. You know, I mean, think about it. Investigating Bush and Cheney, they weren't allowed. They were allowed to testify without being under oath. You know, no notes were allowed to be taken. You know, and that's not an investigation.
Same thing's going on over the Attorney Generals as Gonzalez now. The same thing's going on because it's been a thing. And the assumption is, or is it? You mentioned Alex Jones. There's some people who, believe it or not, may not be aware of the loose change and the video footage and the young people or people who put that together. Alex Jones and the people he's with and others, pointing out these inconsistencies in it. And there's a large movement. That's what the movement is, the 9/11 Truth Movement. They want to have a reopening of the investigation, if I'm not mistaken. And there's 67% of the population think that that's something they would be in favor of, that there be a revisiting of the official version of this. Whereas much of the establishment press, or even some of the, you call them left gatekeepers, do not cotton to the idea that there was some sort of involvement by the government, because it's just something that they say. Mr. Chomsky, if I'm not mistaken, says that is so absurd because they would know that there was no way they could cover up such a thing if they were involved in bringing those airplanes into the World Trade Center.
Well, Mr. Chomsky's kind of bright because evidently they haven't covered it up all that well. Like I said, there's so many holes in the in their analysis of what happened.
Why do you think that they do not cop to, that's a street term, to the ideas that are being advanced by the 9/11 Truth people? That is, people. Amy Goodman only touches on it very tangentially and that sort of thing. Why do you think it is there's an objection to even countenancing the idea that you have to have your meetings, and you just had another one out in Arizona, I guess, and you had these other things. But why do you think there's such an objection to the questions or the inability of people to hear the assertions that are being made by the 9/11 Truth Committee, even though there's so much evidence build up, both scientific and otherwise? Why do you think that is?
I could chime in for a minute and then give the floor to Luke real quick, because we want to get equal time here.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
I hate to say the three letters that are going to make everybody go conspiracy nut, but look at JFK. I mean, almost everybody you ask nowadays, nobody hardly believes that that Lee Harvey Oswald did it alone. Okay, but the press has never really come out and said that. You know, I mean, think about this. 40 years ago. You know. Even to this day, they say, well, there's some questions. And then there was a thing with Peter Jennings, God rest his soul, a couple years ago when he came out and said, now we approve without a doubt through sound information, echoes and such, that that Lee Harvey Oswald was a lone assassin, and nobody believes it. The press, we talked about this several times.
It's not fair to say nobody believes it, because a good deal of the population believes the Warren Commission report. Don't you think? I think a lot of the population, particularly in the straight media and so forth,
and then they are going to disagree with you on that one, Harold.
Okay, perhaps so. Okay, good. That's good. And there's other conspiracy or things that have happened in the past, and that kind of thing. But there's a lot of people, a lot of the population, the citizens of the country and the world, do not want to believe that there's such horrendous conspiratorial things being advanced by the government and the people who run our country. It's very hard for people. The idea of patriotism and this kind of thing is something that is just part of what wants to be accepted by people, I think.
It's extremely...
And then they tar and feather you with the term conspiracy nuts, right?
Well, Luke, I know this guy very well. I don't think he's a conspiracy nut.
No, I don't either. But I'm trying to get at the popular consciousness, why they think can't open like a boil. Why can't it be lanced and open and get to it?
What do you got to say about this?
I think people are waking up. I think, what was the latest number? 100 million people did see loose change. I think everybody is in touch. I think people Google videos and all the different videos that went out in Australia and France.
Quick to loose change. Loose change.
Loose change was even played on the History Channel in Australia.
Okay.
Loose change is a major phenomenon. It was made by good friends of mine, Dylan Avery, Jason Burles, and Corey Rowe, that made a film questioning the official story of 9/11. And it's just, you know, asking questions. And that's what the 9/11 Truth Movement is about. It's about asking questions, and we're not being answered any of those questions that we have.
Right.
And, you know, it's not easy to believe that 9/11 was an inside job. It's not.
No, it's not.
Extremely
it's a huge
not. I don't want to believe it. If I could wake up tomorrow morning and believe that that the government is really good, I would wake up happier.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great?
I would be extremely happier. But the facts, the evidence, talk for themselves. You know.
You had Les and Frank. They brought David Ray Griffin a couple of years back. I went and I heard David Ray Griffin. I went home right away. And I got William Shire, an expert on Nazi, you know, Germany. And it was apparently the case that the Nazis were involved in burning the Reichstag in 1933. Right. And a whole series of bills came out very much like our Patriot Act. And he got to be popular at 97% or something after him. But it was a means to power, and that's happened. It's called false flag.
Exactly. I'm happy you brought up the Reichstag fire, because there are other historical moments in history that, you know, are something like 9/11, just like Operation Northwoods, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. You know,
Gulf of Tonkin definitely.
The Gulf of Tonkin staged incident. You know, Roosevelt having foreknowledge of Pearl Harbor. I mean, all these things. Look at history to understand the future, and that's what people should really do.
What about the premise that in the case of Roosevelt, it was just not politically possible for it to be done because the people were so behind what the geopolitical necessity was of going to war against the Japanese Empire, so they have to stage something in order to do it, or the Maine in 19...
The USS Maine, the Spanish-American War.
They did it. So they do an incident in order to get the people, in a sense, to do the war, because the people don't... Most people don't want to go to war.
Right.
You have to.
That's common
it's
sense.
like most cows don't want to go into the slaughter bin. You know,
exactly.
I mean, you have to prod them to do it, and you have to either prod them or coerce them, or what's the word? Co-opt them.
And that's why 9/11 is so important, because 9/11 is why we have an Iraq war, an Afghanistan war, and soon to be, hopefully not, the Iran war, Syria, and all these other countries.
Seymour Hersh worries
labeled
about that.
axes as evils.
And so does who's the fellow Webster Tarpley is very incensed about that thing about the Iran thing
waiting
coming
for the new moon,
because it projects a kind of sense of an evil cabal or something. The administration, neocons that have been in control since 2000 and so forth. You know, there's a lot of indictment against them, but now it's coming. Now the Democrats have won. The climate has changed. I would think the climate would be more open for an investigation. And how do you feel about Democrat, Republican?
I'm happy you brought
Are the
that up.
Democrats more inclined toward opening this up, or are they also pretty closed on this and it's not politically viable? The people won't believe it. We can't put it out. Even if it were true, we can't put it out because we wouldn't get elected.
The House just voted, right,
you know?
Harold?
Huh?
The House just voted.
They voted.
I think it was 222 to 218 to pull the troops out by what? September of '09, I think it was, or September
I
of 08.
hadn't seen that. Yeah.
We just saw it on the internet today. You know, before that, I was very discouraged by any Democratic hopes as far as like getting things done. You know, but now I'm slightly more encouraged.
Yeah.
But you got to realize, over in Iraq, they built the biggest embassy in the world there.
Those look awful like permanent bases.
They do.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't they though? Do you?
What we have to do, we have to break down this left, right, down paradigm. We have to stop being Democrats and Republicans. We have to start being Americans. And I think that's the major downfall of the whole political system in America. American people don't understand that the left is just as bad as the right. You know.
Okay.
I totally agree on that, because, you know, even though the left and right discuss, you know, talk about little issues, argue about bigger little issues, they still go for the war on terror. They still never questioned, you know, 9/11. Right after 9/11, the Democrats were the first ones saying you can't question the president.
Has there anybody within a position of political power tested or questioned the 9/11 assumptions?
Well, there was.
Is there anyone in there, Kucinich, anybody that's in the House?
Kucinich not so much. Cynthia McKinney.
McKinney, she got voted out.
She got voted out twice. And right now, it's not that he's questioning 9/11 so much, but, you know, the subject that you and I have talked about in past shows, globalization and the money situation with the Federal Reserve Bank and so on. Ron Paul has stated he's running for president.
Oh, yeah, he's a Republican in Texas, right?
He's a Republican from Texas, and that's why I said it doesn't matter if you're left or right.
Yeah, okay, it doesn't matter, right? Because are there people coming from the conservative realm? There's a lot of people questioning the deficit and the kind of things. The conservatives are questioning the Republicans now and everything. But is the country getting ready for maybe a real?
I'm hoping so, Harold, because I don't know what's going to happen if it doesn't. You know, I mean, we talked about the conservatives. Interesting paradigm, or I guess an interesting thing about the 9/11 truth movement and what's happening with 9/11 is it's getting people from the extreme left and from the extreme right.
And some people beyond both the extreme left and the extreme right.
I guess.
And that's the trouble with something like that, because you get a lot of things. And also, if you're open to a lot of different ideas, you're going to get a lot of people that are going to come in, and maybe some of them just doing disinformation or something.
Well,
or
it's just one idea.
COINTELPRO? Do you remember COINTELPRO?
We do.
They infiltrated the civil rights movement in order to discredit
and the
it.
Black Panthers.
You got a lot of
so
problems
right.
like that. You want to keep the integrity and keep that. And your film, I guess, is trying to do that. Keep in touch with the people that are presenting these ideas. And the body of information is growing all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's important when you're looking at, I don't want to talk too much about COINTELPRO, but even if you're looking at people who aren't quite following the right direction or covering all the bases, all right?
No.
9/11 is one thing, right?
No.
But there's so many people who say, well, 9/11 was an inside job, but the government, let's impeach George Bush and Dick Cheney, and then we'll take care of it. And that's, I don't believe, completely the case, because if you look at what happened in Oklahoma City back in '96, there's so much evidence that was also an inside job.
Is there?
Alex Jones with Road to Tyranny?
Yeah.
Road to Tyranny covers
Alex
it pretty
Jones
well.
puts out great stuff. And
He
Dylan?
does.
Who
He does.
Dylan Avery.
He's the one who does the editing, right?
Who? Alex Jones does the editing. He has his own editing staff.
Yeah, but I mean,
Dylan Avery did Loose Change.
Who is
Dylan
it works
Avery,
with
Jason
him down
Burmis,
there
and
in
Corey
Texas
Rowe.
that puts it together? A young fellow who does a lot of the graphics and stuff.
Down in Austin?
I don't know.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Well,
anyway,
the point
I met
being,
them at that thing they had at the church. Really good. And they put out great stuff. I mean, documentaries that are really getting a lot of play. 100 million people saw the documentary.
And they're still going. It's in so many languages and so on.
over DVDs, yes.
And that was laying out the basic premise in a certain sense with evidence and so forth, and it was very well done. And it got circulated all over the place. So there must be a lot of people who are really scratching their heads and thinking maybe we should give this more of a
My point is, they get to a certain point when they focus on Cheney and Bush, you know.
Yeah.
When you consider some of the other evidence about Oklahoma City in 95 and even the WTC attack in 93.
Yeah.
So a lot of footprints there, a lot of fingerprints, you know, from the FBI over that one. You know, and people start thinking, well, geez, if it can't be just Bush and Cheney, if something happened also for a false flag event also happened in 93 and 96, you know, is there a power beyond the governmental system in the United States? We talked about this.
Is it worth defining what we mean false terror? And we realize we're not talking only to people that are 9/11 truth, we're talking to a public, right?
Right.
False flag. Maybe you could talk about it. What is a false flag op, as it were?
False flag op is government operation done by the government. The term originally came from flying false flags.
I see.
With the Navy, flying false flags, saying you're somebody when you're not, having patsies, having somebody else do that. A perfect example of a false flag is Operation Northwoods, where the Joint Chiefs of Staffs planned to attack U.S. Naval Air bases and Guantanamo, attack Washington, D.C., and Guantanamo Bay.
I think it was.
Really?
Yeah.
1961, signed by Lyman and Leonard Sir, the Joint Chiefs of Staff,
Yeah, I remember
proposed to JFK, proposed this plan about, blowing up, airplanes, flying a drone airplane, switching it, blowing it up, blaming it on the Cubans so they could get into war with Cuba. Operation Northwoods, this is not conspiracy nut things. This is, you can find this at the Library of Congress. Operation Northwoods, look it up, proposed plan by the head chiefs of Lyman and Leonard Sir.
Right. And you said the Tonkin resolution, that was false.
Go for
that was
Tonkin.
a false thing in order to get us involved in Vietnam.
Right.
And these people think we have a larger issue that the people simply, poor dears, can't understand, that we have to go over and bomb the bejesus out of Vietnam for some reason, or a geopolitical strategic thing, and it was a mistake, and we ended up killing or dying 4 million people in the case of it.
Exactly.
Maybe you're too young to remember the turmoil that happened with Vietnam, where you were having 58,000 deaths of our boys, and 4 million perhaps Southeast Asians that died as a result of that. And finally the country, it just tore the country apart.
What do you think would happen if the same thing happened with Vietnam, going in there, sending troops in, but they had the internet in 1963?
Boy, I think the internet's been a great godsend, don't you?
Yeah.
I think it's very timely.
Really, yeah. Well, remember, if I may, I'm just thinking the general to remember, what was it, February 15th, 2003 or something? They jumped up all over the world, their internet. They had people demonstrating all over the world against the...
February 15th, were you out there?
Of course I was out there. I was dancing. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
was
was
there,
freezing.
of course, and so was all the world, and
Yeah.
they were doing it. And yet we still have a world where these people are pursuing it. They can't, they've got opposition, serious opposition within the Congress. They can't stop it. He's got the thing. He's going to do another $100 billion. He can do it. He can advance the thing with some sort of a surge and that kind of stuff. And it's still going on. But the level of frustration against the whole idea of that administration, if not the government itself, is beginning to take hold among a whole lot of people. And maybe a lot of people think, wait a minute, this is getting out of hand because we are so disliked by everyone in the world in unprecedented conditions. It could be revolutionary in terms of getting back to some of the issues of the basic way in which the society is structured, not only in this country but around the world, to the benefit of the few. And the masses of the people are not being served by a system.
Though,
Revolution may be in the
maybe
in the wind, and people are very worried about that because it would be so disruptive.
Well, people should be worried about a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, because if they don't have a revolution right now, I mean, we talked about the national ID card law. Okay?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Right now, that was it had been slated for May of 2008 that everybody had to get a national ID card with tamper-proof retina scan and a computer chip in it. You know, which is what bothered me very much, because then everybody would know where the government would know where you are and who you with every moment of your life.
It's beginning to look a lot like police state, and that stuff is followed.
Okay.
I mean, and it's coming, and they're pushing it, right?
Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
you know,
We're going to see it in your clip. Yeah,
now, thank God they pushed that back. They did push that deadline back 10 months.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with the states couldn't even fit the whole process in the budget. Okay. But the thing is, if we get to that point where we have a national ID card, and there is talk of having the cash on the national ID card, so instead of having money in our pockets, you swipe your card, you know? So what happens one day if a whole lot of people are angry with the government for this and that and the third thing, and they want to go protest, you know, and they all want to go down in Washington and protest, and they try to get on the bus, and all of a sudden what, their card doesn't have any room left on it,
I'm older,
they can shut the store on us.
I'm older, and I can remember back when they had a thing called the Internal Securities Act, the Smith Act, and they had a thing where they had two lists. It was against internal security threat. If you have an internal security threat of the society falling apart, they had a ready, with no habeas corpus or anything. They had two lists. If I remember right, it was they had 50,000. They had another one, 250,000 people, and they had detention camps set up. They're down in Missouri, down in Louisiana, and that barbed wire, and they were going to be able to pick people up, put them in there, and they're still on the books. It still has not. Eastler was involved in that, and they still have that on the books, guarding against.
How long ago?
Oh, that would have been in the 50s.
It was in the 50s.
50s, 60s, yeah. And they had that. It was still, and it has not been taken off the book. But it's against the threat of it would be the unwashed masses, don't know what, trying to make a revolution against the established legitimate order. They assume they have a legitimate order, and that would be the Democrats, Republicans, or the system that's in place.
Right.
We have a system that's being tested in many ways. People are being, economically, the technology is taking over production. It's all owned by a few people. It's a plutocratic system
now you're
that the
talking
world
about
operates.
plutocracy.
Now the people may be getting the bit in their teeth, and so they're having methods to try and guard against that kind of thing.
Now,
do you understand what I'm saying?
You said a great thing, you know.
Did I?
People don't want war.
Yeah, I don't.
People don't want war.
Yeah, right.
Nobody wants war, and you're talking about revolution. We have to understand it doesn't have to be a violent revolution.
Okay.
I think the top elite plutocracy, which me and Tom think, or
we
the
agree
elitists.
that is the case.
Yes.
That's the case in every political entity around the world, including the international order.
All right,
right?
but
I think it's the
understand.
same
So we
entity
have
all
a
around the world.
few
I think it's
people running everything, as they always have since Rome.
But I understand.
come
I
on,
want to say,
Harold.
I want to go to that back.
What? No,
We're not, all right, but the way you phrase that is almost like, well, we can't change it because it's always been happening since Rome.
I didn't mean that. I said that
maybe I took it the wrong way. I'm sorry.
I'll give you another quote from a
Okay.
poet. You guys hang out with poets and artists and whatnot.
We
I
do,
know
of
that.
course.
At Lower East Side, I know that. But James Joyce said, history is a nightmare from which I'm attempting to awaken. It's always been the people been screwed over by the few people who owned everything, whether it was the kings in England or now it's finance guys. Few people running everything, and the few people running everything are very worried about the people getting an idea of doing something to serve everybody.
That's very true.
Real revolution. You know what I mean?
That's very true.
Real revolution.
But now, you know, what the plutocracy is doing is way out of hand.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it's crazy, and I think we have to understand that the people really have power, And I think the top elite plutocracy, they're nothing without soldiers and the police. And one thing me and Tom Foti are doing is we're educating as many police officers as we can and military personnel as we can about the truth behind what's going on, not only behind 9/11, the Federal Reserve System, and the destruction of the Constitution of the United States of America.
That's right.
And I think this elite plutocracy is nothing without the people. The only thing I'm apprehensive about is I wish people would stop watching American Idol and Paris Hilton and would really start to understand what's happening, would really look into 9/11. Don't believe me. Don't believe Tom. Don't believe that 9/11 was in his job. Investigate it. Do your work. Study and become smarter.
As part of a larger critique. 9/11 would be in the spark.
9/11 is very important.
A larger critique. It's not just 9/11.
It's history in general.
It is the context within which the planet operates is not what is required. We need a liberation. Exactly. And that is now, the time has come for that, and that's blowing in the wind, as Bobby Dylan said, and they're coming, and they don't have a vision that can make it possible for there to be, in a loose term, justice in terms of the way we form capital, the way we institute technology and distribute income. We don't have a just system. We have half the population living and women deciding which baby they're going to let starve to death when we got the ability to provide in a way that's unprecedented. And they don't have a way to get to that because their system always serves only the rich and powerful.
The elite.
Do you understand?
All throughout history. And I wish people would realize that.
Yeah.
I wish people
That's larger than 9/11.
What's been on your show, and you've talked about the 200,000 years of human existence, and now we're at a point where technologically we can avoid scarcity. We could have everybody being fed and sheltered and so on.
If that's true, we've been throughout all of human history, there's been a condition ontologically or in terms of the zeitgeist, the reality.
Just in terms of
it's always been
people
scarcity.
being able to eat.
There's always been scarcity. So if I got a benefit, I'd take it from you or take the grain from the other tribe. I'm going to get some for my people, but it's zero sum. Some win, some lose, a lot of losers, but we're going to be one of the winners, that kind of thing. But if you get to a thing where we have a capability of providing for everybody, but even within an ecological context, with
and we're there, aren't we?
And we have that capability that's evolved. And so that's something that the old order, the institutional structure, all our institutions are authoritarian. All of our systems are based upon systems that are out of date.
Right, but think about this.
It's like the French Revolution came in 1789 because the feudal system was out of date with the Industrial Revolution. We're post-industrial, new thing coming, the kids are picking up on, and they don't have a vision that can be liberating of the people, and that the times demand that. So that's a big revolution that 9/11 truth will be a spark to help set off. And they are worried about that, really seriously worried.
They should be.
Because the people of the world are really getting up in arms. Out in Venezuela, Chavez, and all over the world.
Of course.
And in this country as well. And you'd like to help maybe encourage some of that to where you could get more and more people involved with trying to understand what we can do.
It's a bigger story, Harold. It's a bigger story. I mean, you know, well, I mean, a lot of the things you're talking about, people deciding, I saw it on this show, actually. First time I was like, you said half the people in the world have never made a phone call.
Yeah, that's what Kofi Annan reported. Yeah, half the people in the world had never made a single phone call
all these
in
people
their
in
life.
the third world countries, and you're saying deciding which kid to starve, you know, a lot of that is intentional. I hate to say intentional like somebody's trying to starve somebody, but it's systematically intentional. Between the World Bank and the IMF and the loans that go into these countries and how they find these despots to lend the money to, and they make these conditions, these structural adjustments. So the people are saddled with this loan they cannot pay off. So what do they have to do? Well, A, they have to join the international banking system. B, they have to grow these crops and sell all their finer crops to pennies on the dollar to Archer Daniels Midland or some big company, to Midwestern company. C, they have to sell their water rights off like they did in Argentina to Enron of all companies. Okay, this is a system that I think that covers your financial institutions on a wider scale, like the IMF, the World Bank, and Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland, and also the larger corporations. Okay. Because, like you said, the plutocracy, it's getting worse.
Yeah, and in our case, it's both Democrat and Republic.
Yeah, both Democrats. It's beyond Democrat and Republican. We feel that both parties are kind of owned. We have talked about this. We're not on the same side, but
is the best democracy money can buy. You can stuff pockets.
It's plutocracy.
People
are very delusional. They think going in a booth once every 4 years and pulling a ballot is being a citizen, active citizen. You know, it's not. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a plutocracy. Government ruled by the rich, and we have to understand that and expose this elitists.
I mean, humanity always has.
Well, it's time for a
change.
change.
Guess what? But now
the mafia dons fight who's got the right to
Now
have the
they're
protection
American people.
agency within a particular territory. He wins and he becomes a king.
Now the American
and then
people,
the people are wallowing around in the mud.
The American
And I
people
think
are
the people
delusional,
are getting
though.
upset with that, seriously so.
Yeah.
And they're going to challenge it, and that is something that they don't have a vision of how to set up
But
the system
look,
to serve
Al,
everybody.
Here is
because
the
they're
difference between the plutocracy and Julius Caesar and the plutocracy now. Julius Caesar had an army,
He did.
a very formidable one.
He had a Praetorian Guard.
Praetorian Guard and the whole works. And if you wanted to challenge Julius Caesar, you had to invade Rome and Italy and all, and Hannibal did it and all that kind of stuff, okay? And you take your losses, right? The plutocrats right now do not have their own army.
They're running out of even Blackwater. They're
Right,
hiring
right.
mercenaries for
They're
crying
hiring
out
guys
loud.
who-
Blackwater guys down in New Orleans
Right.
keeping the peace.
The only
Right.
reason
like
they're
mercenaries,
power,
man, like Hessians.
They have power by hypnosis, Harold.
Exactly. And the American people think they live in a democracy. They're delusional.
Yeah.
And by exposing what it really is, we expose the power elite.
But people have a certain elemental ability to live and everything. Kids go to school, they get milk, and they really don't want to see something, particularly if you don't have a vision of how it's going to be, what it means in terms of the life. People are not going to want to just walk into the chaos. They're really worried about chaos and everything falling apart.
You're saying
I don't
people are
agree. I
comfortable.
don't
How
agree.
are people comfortable with gas prices going up, milk prices going up? People, the standards of living are going down. The American middle class is being destroyed.
Well, that's
by this whole
beginning to be
war.
hollowed out.
And
is,
American people, you
is
know,
not-
outsourcing, insourcing American
But they will
jobs.
take an awful lot of grief before they will rise. Or
What
do
the hell?
anything,
That's your-
particularly
you
if
know,
there's no
I
vision.
totally
If
don't
you
agree.
don't have a political party that's preventing a vision, you got some socialists, you got some people who have some idea or something, but there's no real other vision to what you're going to do.
To me-
Try the
Whether-
Constitution, Harold.
Well,
Try the
but
Hold on.
Constitution.
The biggest grief to me is when on 9/11, all New Yorkers lost 3,000 neighbors.
I
And
agree.
after 9/11, we are still losing 50,000 rescue workers, which are dying because of the EPA's
of the-
and
yeah.
White House lie. I think that's enough grievances.
Well,
when,
yeah.
when
Yeah.
an institution that you pay taxes to is responsible for something like that,
Yeah.
I think that's enough grievances to act up and take responsibility and be active in the system and expose the system for what it is.
Yeah, okay, now we're talking about the... Okay, and the thing is, one of the problems is, in television, even on cable television, we have a whole hour, it's too short a time. We could talk for 27 hours easy, right? But we got to move along because we got to get your film in
Yeah.
and everything like that. But it's a thing that is going... And so talk about the film, what you've been doing and that kind of thing, because we got 2 clips we want to show, okay? Could you talk about Dedicated and, you know, the film, and we're going to show a clip with Tom and you and in it and everything, but
Yeah.
set it up for us, as you'd say.
Dedicated. It's an hour-long film. It's going to be on the internet soon, and it's a great film talking about what New York Now Living Truth has been doing in New York City for the past months and years, and how we've been educating, you know, talking to people, giving them DVDs, and how we've been treated by the New York City Police Department,
Yeah.
and how much crap we have to go through just to you know, do what a citizen should do and uphold the Constitution and have their right to assembly.
I've seen you try and get across to them.
Yeah.
Some
Exactly.
people are trying to harass you.
That's
with
what me and
that,
Tom were
you
trying to
talk
do.
to them
May
and
I
say,
put a-
try to get across and take the DVD. That
Yeah,
kind
to
of
make a
thing. Yeah.
point. If I could make a
Education.
point about this,
That's
Harold.
interesting.
What we don't want to do is frame this as an us against them.
Right,
Okay.
right,
Yeah.
We believe that the cops are us. Like again, the
okay.
plutocrats are up here and everybody else is
Your
over
friend's,
here.
your
Okay?
friend's father was a,
Was a fireman, right.
like a fireman.
My best
That's
friend.
like one
Right.
of them.
And we also
Yeah.
have a police officer.
One of
who's,
my
joined with
best
us.
friends is Craig Bartmer. He's a police officer. He's
Yeah.
a rescue worker. He was there on 9/11. He had Building 2 and Building 7 come down on him, and he's with 9/11 Truth. He's with the organization.
Really?
And
Okay.
and he supports some of the evidence with what happened with Building 7 about how it was controlled demolition.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's one of my best friends. So it's
Yeah.
not like we're against the police.
That's right.
We're trying to educate the police, but there's NYPD intelligence which are working against us,
Yeah,
which
sure,
we're trying to
sure.
expose for what they're doing. In the movie, you actually see when me and Tommy are walking to Building 7, the new
Yeah.
Building 7 that I just put up there, a cop in a suit come up, show his badge, and detain us. How did he know who I was and who Tommy was?
Yeah.
But the clip you're
me
about to
see
see right now, the clip you're about to see right now
Yeah.
is us peacefully demonstrating by the New York Stock Exchange, where we're talking to people about the put options that were put on American and United Airlines before 9/11 by the stock market, which made millions of dollars, which showed $4 before 9/11. We were
And a
there
lot of
peacefully
people, even
giving them
Mr.
flowers.
Silverstein, or what's his name, the guy that owned for the
Exactly, his insurance
he got
policy.
word or something of that. People
you'll
got word
see
of
it
it.
in it, yeah,
That
you'll
kind
see
of
it in
thing.
it.
There's a lot
That's
of
also
things.
in the movie,
And
but yeah.
you've got the logo. It says 9/11. What is the thing you have? 9/11.
We have a big banner that says 9/11 was an inside job.
Now it was an inside job. That's the premise, and you're getting across, and you're getting more and more people. Let's say police people and fire, and you know people middle class who are listening to this idea
What we're doing.
rather
We've
than just
talked
dismissing
to police,
it.
and I could tell you
Talk
a
to
number
police,
of conversations I've had with police. When I go up and say, excuse me, I just want to tell you that my feeling is that the events of 9/11 happened with the complicity of our government, and some people just say, I know. Some of the police officers say, I know.
Really?
Yeah.
People will say that.
A guy I talked to not too long ago, he was on the
f-
pile, he lost his sense
faith
of
in
smell.
the system is deteriorating
What
among a
It's-
lot of people
because they
in
know
the
they're
face of
getting
the
betrayed.
absurdity.
They're getting
Yeah,
betrayed by the
right.
government.
What we do, what we do.
And then that
about their
that
sicknesses and so
debacle
on.
in Iraq is contributing to that, and that's happening on a world scale.
Right,
exactly.
So
Right.
these people, it's like there's a danger if you get a rat cornered in a corner that they get danger, that kind of.
I
but-
understand that. I understand what you're
yeah.
saying with that.
But they don't have a solution, and then they're pursuing. Anyway, so the film is done, and then it was Building 7, which came down with no airplane and everything. A lot of people question that. How
Right,
in the
yeah.
hell can that have possibly happened? The physics are against Stephen Jones, all that. And you were there for a while at Building 7? You had some run-in with the police?
There's a new building, as we were saying, as me and Tommy
They
were
put up
walking to
a new
Building
one,
7.
yeah.
Yeah, we sent out an email to the whole larger New York 9/11 Truth group saying we're going to be out there in front of Building 7, peacefully demonstrating, giving out flowers, and talking to people, in an educational, rational way about Building 7.
Okay.
And as me and Tommy were walking,
Uh-huh.
there's even a clip in the film where cops come up to us and detain us before we even get to Building 7.
Before we get
Didn't
on
even
our
be
way.
Building 7.
On our way to Building 7. So how do you know?
They were waiting for
They
us,
were
and
waiting
they
for
admitted
us
to it.
by Building 7.
They were waiting. They
You
had
know.
the word, right?
And then,
Yeah,
in the movie, I don't think we're going to show this clip now, but in the movie, I actually met one of Larry Silverstein's personal friend, a close friend of him. And
he was the owner of 9/11, and
Larry Silverstein was the owner of the whole World Trade Center
Center.
complex,
At the
and
time.
And
6
he
weeks.
said pulled the building.
Yeah,
Number
6 weeks
7,
before
yeah.
9/11, he put an insurance policy on the buildings, which he earned about $5 billion just about in a lawsuit.
That's real money.
That's real money.
Yeah.
He admitted the building was pulled, controlled demolition, and on building and in the film, we actually talked to one of his close friends, one of his security personnel. He didn't want to go on record, so we put him as anonymous, who said Larry Silverstein was on his way to work on 9/11.
Got a call.
And he got a phone call telling him not to show up to work. He put it on speaker, telling him not to show up to work.
Yeah.
Then he called his daughter.
Right.
His daughter worked in Building 7. Called his daughter. He told his daughter not to show up to Building 7.
Right.
And him and his daughter both never showed up to work on 9/11.
Yeah.
And what's really funny about Larry Silverstein, he has breakfast in Windows of the Worlds every morning, every day. That's his usual routine. On 9/11, he never showed up there. And that's what we exposed. And we have his personal friends saying that.
These are things that are done. I don't think he ever said controlled demolition.
He said
he
pull
said
it.
pull
He
it.
said pull
Yeah,
it.
that's a term.
Pull it is a controlled demolition term.
But,
Why
you
didn't the
were-
commission talk about that?
Yeah,
Though?
they-
Why
why
didn't they
don't-
subpoena him? Why didn't
No,
they
there's a
investigate that?
whole list of things. You go through Stephen Jones, thermite, all these kind
Exactly.
of things. There's a whole list.
Do you
William
know that the
Rodriguez.
government has
Yeah.
not come out with an explanation for Building 7 as of yet?
Yeah, I
NIST,
know.
FEMA,
This is 6 years
Yeah,
later.
the 9/11 Commission report,
There's
they
a lot
don't have
of
an official
frustration building
explanation.
up.
Hell
Seems
yeah.
to me you're a little frustrated. You want
I'm
some
sorry.
answers. No, it's quite all right.
We all want some answers.
Yeah,
The
so
family
listen,
members
we're
want
gonna,
answers.
let's run. We'll run this piece. We got to get it in.
All right,
We're
this
gonna
is the
get
clip
your
with the
film.
cops.
Get the clip
This
in.
is from the thing. These two young fellows, they're down there and they're doing this, and so it's called From Film, dedicated, created by Luke. And let's see if we can run that piece of clip. Now, I guess it runs about 9 minutes or something.
Yes, the first clip's 9 minutes with
About
the police
9
officers.
minutes. So let's run that now, then, please. Thank you.
He said as long as we're not blocking pedestrian traffic, we're okay. Okay? So don't block any traffic. We're really not gonna be here too long anyway.
We have submachine guns and head-to-toe body armor on New York streets. Look at that. Submachine guns and head-to-toe body armor in New York streets.
Yeah, come on. Which one do you want?
Pointing down. I'm not filming you, sir. I'm pointing down. I just want the audio. Okay. I'm not filming you, sir.
All right. Without being anti-nuisance, it's just a matter of clarifying things. You have a right to be asked not to film. Don't we have a right to be on a public sidewalk?
You have a right to be on a public sidewalk. You do not have a right to impede pedestrian traffic. You didn't understand that the first time. If you unfurl your banner across the sidewalk, you are impeding pedestrian traffic.
Okay? You are. When you do that and it attracts a crowd, you do make my job hard. You make my job very difficult. My job is to watch the people that are here. That's my job. And you make my job very difficult when you create a condition where there are more people here blocking the street.
Without being a strictly video review, your job also is about protecting the people. You know? And our freedom to gather and to feel and to speak what we think is the truth.
Listen, my job now is not to debate First Amendment.
That's fine. Okay. What I want to do, I want to be able to get somewhere near the statue of George Washington and us. Is there a possible way we can do that?
If you want to take pictures with your people there, that's fine. Once you unfurl that banner and people can't get around you, then you block the pedestrian traffic.
I have to tell you, we do the same thing in the library, we do it at Ground Zero, we do it all over
wherever you want. But if I'm here and I believe that you're violating the administrative code, then I'm going to do what my job is to do. Just the way you have your job to do, I have my job.
Understandable. Is there some kind of way, is it all judgment as far as blocking traffic? If we unfurl the sign in a way where we're not impeding any pedestrian traffic at all, wouldn't that be just or legal?
That's for me to decide whether or not I need to block the pedestrian traffic. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Because, I mean, if you do it right behind your truck there where nobody's walking down, but that's, you guys walking the dog, that's about it. And you can kind of keep out of the way just for a moment.
Not unfurl that anywhere near my truck.
That's
You
not
will
going to
not unfurl that anywhere near my truck.
It's not going to happen.
You will not.
Again, it's a judgment call.
It is my judgment call at this time.
I'm going to ask you one more time not to point the camera at me.
No, okay.
I'm only going to ask you one more time.
Okay.
I understand. Is this okay, sir?
We're trying to do our best to cooperate with the police. We don't think this is anti-police.
Well, I understand that. And if you want to record your whole conversation to have a record of it, that's fine. Just say that's what you want to do. Don't be flip about it and try very slowly to point it up. When I already asked that I didn't want to be videoed.
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean that.
Because you have your minions documenting over here anyway.
That's totally, okay? Now, this is the last thing I want to go. As far as going in the truck, it sounds like it's a personal thing with you guys. It has nothing to do with traffic. It sounds like it has nothing to do with blocking traffic. Nobody control the sidewalk.
You will not put an anyone there.
This is my vehicle, my responsibility, and the city's property. And I have a lot of equipment in there, a lot of dangerous equipment that I'm going to protect.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Basically, control the flag.
People take pictures over there all the time. As long as you're not stopping and impeding pedestrian traffic, that's fine. I have to be over here. Sir, you do what you feel like you have to do. And as long as you're not impeding pedestrian traffic and not violating the administrative code, then I don't have a problem.
Okay, I think we'll make it quick. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, look, by the way, what happened?
Yo, don't ever, when he tells you don't record me, you have every right to record. Remember that.
Do we or not?
You have every right to record. You're on a public sidewalk. Everything is public property. You give me the camera next time. I will put it, I'm not scared. I will put it right in their face. They tell me to put it down, we'll put it right in their face. They have no right telling us that.
I never stopped recording. I might have taken it off his face, but I never stopped recording.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% sure.
Okay. All I want
Unless
to
it's
do,
private property, then it's other.
all I want to do is have them stay here, okay? You guys, you got to be very careful about this. We lose our sign. In fact, me and Luke should do it.
Why?
No, you can have this, okay?
Why?
I
Why are we going to lose our sign?
Take it away.
What did they say?
Right.
They say if we put the sign near their truck, they're going to take it away.
All right. Now we just tried to put our banner.
All right,
up.
they're doing okay.
All right.
Cut it off. Yeah, it's good. It just goes on and everything. That was good. When did you shoot it? When was it shot? When was the footage shot?
This was October 2006. Yeah,
2006.
right after, right,
just last
yeah.
October, right?
Yeah, right
Okay,
after
good. Yeah,
9/11.
right. And are you still keeping? Are you? Is Dedicated done now? I mean, you finished. You've done the final wrap and everything.
Dedicated is just a film that's in tribute to Dan Wallace.
Yes.
And this is just about a certain amount of periods. We still keep doing this. We still go out to to Ground Zero every Saturday from 1 through 4
Wait a
with
minute,
that
you
banner.
go every Saturday?
We do
Saturday.
street actions every
Now,
Saturday.
when you
Raining.
say we, we're talking New
New
York
York 9/11
9/11
Truth, Change, and the activists of New York City go out to Ground Zero every Saturday from 1 through 4 with a banner. With that banner that you just saw, giving out
Right.
flyers and DVDs to the people at Ground Zero.
What kind of a response do you get from the folks walking by?
I mean,
It's
It's
mixed,
better
I
as
suppose.
time has gone on.
It's getting better?
Yeah.
More
Like
people saying,
A
hey,
year and a
maybe
half
something's
getting
better.
ago, forget it. People were like threatening us and stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean,
Really?
I came
Yeah,
out there.
people threatening.
Yeah, I came
Yeah.
out three years
That
ago.
patriotism
You get
thing,
pushed,
yeah.
you get spit on, you get cursed at. But right now, I have people engaging me in intellectual conversations. And when you have an intellectual conversation about somebody about 9/11, you really could convince them and really make them
Yeah, you
understand
can
the
make
bigger
a
picture
case.
of things.
Yeah. If it's not all emotional.
Yeah, and the video you just saw, it's just us standing up for what's right, us standing up for the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and our freedom of assembly.
Yeah, and you have a right to take a camera
Yes.
most anywhere you
Exactly.
want in this
Right.
country.
And in
It
America,
seems to
yeah.
me, you
In
know,
America, we
they
have-
don't ever try to say, well, you're making a movie, you better get to the mayor's office on movie making, you got union questions and all that. It doesn't come up or anything like that. 'Cause
Not,
you-
not in the
you know
age of
what I mean?
YouTube, I don't think.
Yeah, not in the age of YouTube or camcorders or
Right.
something. And they're really good equipment. You can make
Yeah.
good stuff. Yeah, okay.
We're American
Just a
citizens.
thought,
Yeah,
you
we
know.
have every right to be there.
By what rationale they could say you can't shoot on the street or endangering the public or upsetting?
Well, that's the whole thing.
You know,
They
got-
could say
have
that,
with
but
the
if you-
people who
if
want to
you-
do demonstrations. That, you know,
Again-
they wouldn't let us walk in Central Park because it's going to hurt the grass.
Oh, remember that? Remember that? Didn't
Yeah,
that?
the rationales. I'm saying
Republican
the
Again, we live in
rationales that
America, yeah.
The rationales that they can come at you with in terms of being representing legal authority by which you can't do what you're doing because
Right.
of some endangering some part
Their
of the
rationales are
population.
unconstitutional and
Right.
un-American. We live in America. We have a constitution. We have a Bill of Rights. That place where we just demonstrated, that was where the first Bill of Rights were written. That was where the first American Congress was held at. And we have every right. And that's what the American people have to be. We have to stop being ghosts and we have to stand up for our
Right.
rights
I bet
and
the
use
founding
them.
fathers would have smiled as you were doing all
I
that.
bet they were
We
probably
hope.
smiling
We
down.
hope. They're
Eyes
smiling
cold,
now
right?
at us,
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
Or
Yeah.
Jefferson said it takes a little revolution
Well, it
every once
does,
in a
you
while.
know?
You know, you have a revolution, that kind of thing. And then you also, I want to mention, you mentioned at the beginning, Luke, a fellow worker and a fellow you were very close with.
Yeah, Dan Wallace. Dan Wallace
And
was,
I think the
yeah.
second clip we have something to do
Dan
with
Wallace,
him.
Dan Wallace was a very good friend of mine. He got involved in New York 9/11 Truth. He was a very active member. He was always out there, us with Ground Zero. He was always out there in other street actions. You're going to see a video, and it's just me and him doing all these street actions, talking to people, educating people, being confronted with the cops, standing up to the cops. He was always there with me. He always stood there with me, shoulder to shoulder, standing up to the cops. You know, we miss him dearly, and you know, he was a very brave man. He was one of my best friends, and the video that we're about to play is a speech that he gave on December 3rd during a movie showing at St. Mark's Church.
Yeah, St. Mark's.
Yeah, and Dan Wallace was special because I think he you know, not only was he courageous,
Yeah.
not only was he brave, not only did he do what he did, not only did he stand up, but he was a family member. He lost his father
Absolutely, yeah.
on 9/11.
His
Robert
father
Wallace.
was lost in the
His
thing.
father was Lieutenant Robert Wallace. His father passed away on 9/11 in the Twin Towers, saving people. He was arrested. He was one of the firefighters that passed away.
Right.
And Dan Wallace, you know, he read the commission report. And then he read the commission, then he read the 9/11 Commission Omission and Distortion book by David Ray Griffin. He read those two books, made up his mind, and he decided to be active, and and he fought for what he believed in.
And
that was beautiful about him.
he's also very patriotic.
He loves
Yeah.
America.
He
We all
loves
love
America
America.
deeply. Yeah, we all. Yeah, right. Okay.
I love
that's
America. Tom
yeah,
loves
that's
America.
to make a point.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
that's
you know,
to
we're
make that
standing up
point.
for
Why
our
we're
rights.
doing this.
Yeah, right. It is.
Exactly, and you know, I think, and I when I introduced him December 3rd, and I actually said he's a hero because I actually did view him as a hero for what he did.
Even when you were hanging out with him.
Even when I was hanging out with him, because he was the first family member to ever say the truth that St. Allen was an inside job, and he
he
wasn't scared of that.
had a wonderful way about him.
He did, and he was very
beautiful-
courageous.
beautiful- yeah, he was courageous.
He's a natural
He-
leader too.
Yeah, he was
I
a
believe.
leader.
We all love him. We all miss
Yeah.
him, and
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I
and
didn't know him. Yeah.
He's not. You know, this organization is not what it would be if he was here today. And he really validified what we were doing because, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
He was
Well
just
then,
a beautiful person.
Definitely.
maybe if we could set that up and
play
say,
the
maybe
clip
now
right
would be
now.
a good time. We got
Yeah.
a few minutes left, so we're talking now with Luke
Rudkowski.
Rudkowski. He's an Irishman.
Polish.
No,
Don't
I
matter.
know. I was making a joke. Luke. Anyway, and we're running. So we can run up and run that program.
Clip of Dan Wallace.
It's only about a minute or so with the
4 minutes.
It's 4
4
minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
It's 4 minutes. So we'll run that now. If we can set that up, please, and run that. Thank you. They may have a
Are we
little hard
setting it
time.
up?
Yeah, they're trying to set it up. They may be having a little trouble, so we can talk about it.
Yeah, but the footage you're about
And
to see
just
is
get
him
it going
speaking.
when it runs,
Yeah, him
when you get it.
speaking at this, you know, about his father and about his pursuit of truth.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
one of the things that Dan said, and it was kind of
Okay, I got it. Looks like they got it.
My father was a firefighter, came from a family of firefighters. My grandfather was a firefighter. His father was a firefighter, so it basically runs in my family. My brother's actually going to be a firefighter. So this runs in my family. I mean, my father loved his job. There's nothing more in the world, I mean, except for probably his family. He loved his job to death. He would not do anything other than that. He actually, the summer before 9/11, he was on medical leave. He had a hernia operation, so he was with us the whole summer. Thank God I got to spend the last summer with my father. You know, went on vacations, got the whole summer spent with him. And his first day back to work was September 11th. And they wanted to put him on light duty, meaning they wanted to keep him in the firehouse answering the phones. He refused. He said, I'm a fireman, not a secretary. He said, I'm going to work no matter what. And I could just imagine if my father wasn't there that day, I could imagine how he would feel that he didn't go with his brothers into those buildings. My father would be a very, very broken man. And you know, ever since that day, I believe the official story for all about 2 minutes. And I always had my questions. You know, my family had their questions, and the government sent us the 9/11 commission, or I should say omissions, really. But they sent us that, and I read the whole thing. And as I'm reading the whole thing, it was just incredible that the lies in this book. It's like, I don't remember how many pages. It's like 1,000 pages, something like that. But it's shorter, longer, whatever. But it was just, it hurt me to read this book. And then I researched it on the internet, and I noticed the little squibs coming out of the building as they're coming down, because I've seen it a million times as everybody else did. And I'm like, gee, what's that? I'm wondering what's going on. So a friend of mine actually gave me loose change, and I seen that, and I was amazed. I was so amazed when I seen it. I seriously, I broke down. I didn't sleep that night. I was just insanely distraught about it. And so I joined this group, the 9/11 Truth, and then I went to the Truth Rally in Cooper, Great Hall of Cooper Union, September 10th. I've been down to the Trade Center every year with my family. This year I was with my other family, and it felt better than anything I've ever felt before. I mean, the truth, to actually be out there and know that I'm fighting for something that's right and something that's American, because that is the American way. My father was a true patriot. My father hung up the flag every day and took it down every night. My father was a true patriot, and I will follow in his footsteps. And I try so hard. I'm going to try till the death of me to get him justice. Not only him, the 3,000 others that died too. When I go down to the Trade Center, I don't start crying until I actually see other families mourning for their family members. The people that went in there just for a 9-to-5 job, just worked there every day, doing whatever, you know, their office jobs. And when I see that, that just upsets me more, because my father knew what he was doing. And on another note, actually, the fire department, they took us down about maybe 2 months, 3 months after it happened, and they let us listen to the recordings of their, you know, their radio contact. And I actually heard my father's last words was calm, as we're talking right now. He said, "I'm trapped in the elevator. I'm going to try to hack my way out. I'll, you know, get back to you when," boom, that's it, radio contact lost. And, you know, when I heard that, that made me so sick to my stomach, and it still makes me sick. And I just wanted to say this guy outside actually just told me stop talking about 5 years ago, and I told him I will never stop talking about 5 years ago. Even if it's 20 years from now, 30 years from now, I'm never going to stop talking about it. Because as I said before, my father was a patriot, I'm a patriot, and everybody in this room that believes in truth and wants to find justice is a patriot. Because this is America. It is of the people, for the people, and by the people. And that's the America that I know. And that's the America that I'm going to defend, no matter what.
But, so, what a beautiful fella. I'm really sorry. He just...
Yeah, we miss him. We love him. And I always carry this with me whenever we do a street action. And, you know, I think he's always there with me, looking over me. And, you know, he's always going to be with us. And we're always going to keep remembering him no matter what.
Yeah, I'm really sorry that had to happen and so forth. And that's from Dedicated also. That's part of the film,
yeah,
right?
Yes, that's Dedicated.
I think we ought to say that we're talking now on the 23rd of March,
yes,
right, 2007, and Dedicated is going to be up on YouTube.
I made this movie for free. It's going to be on wearechange.org, the website, wearechange.org. It's for the people, by the people. You just go on wearechange.org. You're going to be able to see the film for free.
That's your site, or site?
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's my site, wearechange.org.
And it's going to be up there
exactly,
at the website. It's going to be on YouTube with a link at your
exactly.
thing. And you've got it up. It'll be done by the time this program airs.
It'll be done by the time this program. So just seeing it go on wearechange.org to see the full film. It's an hour long. It's a great film. Check it out.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And that's really good. And the beat goes on, as they say. And so it's building to that kind of thing. And then also this program will be up on YouTube by Sunday, I think, if all goes well, and so forth. So the YouTube and the fact that we got the communications, we got to keep that open to alive to really thoughtful things and everything, rather than just pablum. We got to keep it alive.
Definitely.
And you guys are doing it 9/11 Truth. So give my best to everybody there, Frank and Les and all the people that are down there doing it. And it's growing apace. And thank you really very much for coming in. He was a lovely, beautiful fellow. You could be seen that he was. And I'm really sorry. He was a close friend of yours. And he just, I don't want to go into it in detail, but there was no conspiracy.
He passed away in his sleep.
Natural
His
cause.
family asked me not to think of no theories or to disrespect his death by, you know, making up some stuff. They told me there was no foul play involved, there was no conspiracy. And all I want to do is respect. I want his